Quick question. If you had to ask someone for a really big gift, and I'm talking six figure, seven figure, or even larger, what do you feel first? Now, for most nonprofit leaders, it's not confidence, it's fear. And here's the thing most people will miss that fear isn't about the donor and it's not about the money. It's about your relationship with money, the stories you learn, the memories that you carry. Those things are what shapes that relationship. So the real reason you are afraid to ask for that big gift, and it's not what you think. That is our focus in this episode. Let's huddle up. Hey, welcome to another episode of Huddle Up with Mark, the Fund Coach. I'm Mark Duncan. And yes, we are going to talk about the proverbial elephant in the room, the very thing that makes many of the people that I work with uncomfortable, and quite frankly, one of the primary reasons why people will work with me. One, they're not sure what to do, and two, they're afraid of this whole idea of asking for money. So let me set the stage here for you. The smartest and the most capable of leaders will freeze when it comes time to ask for that big gift. But let me tell you that this is normal. This fear is very common, especially for leaders who care deeply about their mission. You know, we don't want to make a mistake. And so when it comes time to leaning in and asking, we freeze. And it's very common. And, let's be clear, too, about the size of the gifts we're talking about. I'm not talking about you asking for $25, $50, $100. I'm not talking about you asking for people to purchase tickets for a bake sale or raffle or gala. I'm talking about major gifts, whatever your organization considers a major gift. That's what we're focusing on. And when we engage in these big asks, they feel personal, partly because they activate identity and worth within ourselves. See, big gifts don't just test fundraising skill, they test our beliefs. Now, what is it and why do big gifts trigger fear? Well, first of all, big gifts force us as leaders to confront a number of things: wealth, power, deservingness, worthiness. These are all things that bubble up when we're engaged in or have to engage or just thinking about engaging in making that kind of an ask. And on top of that, as nonprofit leaders, we are trained to serve, to sacrifice, and to stay humble. So big asks can feel like we're crossing some invisible line because we're trained to be that way. Now, this isn't weakness by any stretch. It's conditioning. This is not something that you've done to yourself on purpose. It's conditioning that has occurred early in your life that has created this perception that's created this relationship. You see, your money memories are where the fear is formed. Think about that for a minute. Your money mindset, it's not theoretical. It's learned, and it's learned early. We think of, or we're taught that we don't talk about money, or rich people are selfish, or money grows on trees, or money is the root of all evil, or asking for money is rude, or money is related to stress and shame and conflict. All of these things are things that we may experience growing up. Think about your first money memory. Maybe you remember your parents having a conversation about money in the context of lack or not enough. Oh, we can't afford that. You may remember growing up asking, going shopping with your mom or dad, and that you asking them if you could have something, and they tell you, we don't have the money for that right now. We can't afford that. That's not in our budget. That's not on the list. Or maybe it has to do with your allowance. Maybe you have memories associated with that. Whatever your first money memory is, and activities and conversations that you've overheard and engaged in shortly thereafter, especially around 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, 6 years old, those are the things that shape and created your relationship with money. Now, your parents didn't do this on purpose. It just, it's where they were at the time. So, having that understanding is important. And if money felt unsafe at all to you as a child, your nervous system may still treat it that way, especially around those big numbers, those 5, 6, 7 figure and greater numbers. And then we have this other conditioning where we think that big donors are unconsciously, right, representing something that isn't true. Like they are the other, or people like us don't do that, or asking feels like you're violating old rules. In some cultures, you don't even, money isn't even discussed. So there's this taboo that is there when it comes to big dollars. Now, how does this show up in fundraising? Here are 5 ways that it shows up in fundraising. One, we tend to over educate ourselves about or over prepare for a visit or starting to build a relationship with a donor, even though we know for certain that there's capacity, there's a link to the mission, and there's an interest in the mission because they've been giving in a small way, but they've been giving. But we tend to, when we know that it's right in front of us, we tend to overthink it. Oh, is that wealth screening right? Is um, are we sure that they have a strong relationship with our board member? Should that be the person that is opening the door for us? Uh, Is it okay if I call them? Maybe I should email them first. I'll email them and then I'll wait and see what happens. Right? And we overthink all of this when all you need to do is just start, just reach out. But again, this is how it shows up. Second, there's no clarity around the amount when it comes to asking. We're vague. We're hoping that you support our campaign. We're hoping that you make a gift to support our annual fund instead of being specific and clear. You want $100,000 gift? Ask for $100,000. But don't skirt the issue. Don't be vague. Be clear. But because there's this relationship with money, we will have a tendency to do that, to not be clear. Third thing is we stay in cultivation mode too long, right? Instead of moving into making the ask, we go to lunch and we write a thank you note. We write the call report. Then we schedule coffee. Next thing is a tour. Next thing is we're inviting them to an event, and so on and so on and so on. Meanwhile, they're wondering, when are you going to get around to asking? When are you going to get around to asking me for that gift? And if you don't do that, here's what else can happen. Number 4 is that you can be in a position where you're letting the donors decide how this proceeds. You're handing over control to them because they ultimately are expecting you to ask. And when you don't ask, they may just write you a check saying, well, you know what? I'm going to give you $1,000 when you planned on asking them for 10,000. But because you didn't maintain control and you allowed them to decide everything, you now don't get to shape the narrative and ask for exactly what you need. And then finally, one of the things and one of the ways it shows up is that you tell yourself, oh, they're not ready. They're not ready for me to ask them yet. There's still, we need more time, right? It's kind of what we do when we continue to stay in cultivation mode. But you're telling yourself this, that they're not ready. When in all actuality, you're not ready. And all of those things that I just mentioned, right? There are a form of avoidance, and avoidance often looks like strategy. It looks like it's intentional. But in all actuality, it's just pushing or kicking the can down the road. So how do we create a more healthier framing as it relates to money itself? The first thing you should do is you should be looking at money as a tool, not a moral measure. It is a tool that we use every day that gets circulated throughout our society to be able to exchange it for goods and for services and to be philanthropic. It's not a moral measure, it's a tool. And so we have to recognize that the power that money has is not as big as you think. It is simply a tool. And wealthy donors aren't a problem to manage, they're partners. That's how you should look at them, as partners. And asking isn't taking, it's inviting. It's inviting that donor and giving them the opportunity to make a difference in the lives of the people that you serve. You see, you don't create capacity, you reveal it. The donor already has the money. You do your homework, you know that. They wouldn't be meeting with you, and the research wouldn't be telling you, and I'm talking about wealth screening, wouldn't be telling you that they don't have money. They tell you the ones that do. And your job is to be clear. Job is clarity, not persuasion. When a donor says no, which if you work with me, that'll rarely happen. But if a donor says no, it's not a verdict on you. And a yes, on the other hand, isn't something that you took from them because you invited them, you presented them with an opportunity. So here's a homework assignment for you. I want you to, if you journal, this is great. Open up your journal and I want you to write down. If you don't journal, just take a piece of paper and a pen and write down your first money memory, the earliest money memory that you have. Write down how it made you feel. Write down what you heard, what you saw, all of those things. So when you immerse yourself in that space for a moment, and then ask yourself, what did it teach you about wealthy people? And then understanding that what asking for a big gift feels like it says about them. That's your homework. The objective here is awareness. You just simply need to be aware of this. Awareness creates freedom. You see, you don't have to fix this today. You just have to notice it first. The mere awareness of this will be enough for you to understand and that you can separate yourself from that fear because it is yours. It does not belong to the person sitting across from you. That fear is yours. That relationship that you have with money is yours, not theirs. So the moment you can become aware of that and set that aside and think about why you're asking, you will start to see some success. You will start to see movement. You will not be stuck. So I hope this is helpful to you. I encourage you to do the homework assignment. And if you're comfortable, feel free to drop in the comments what you discovered during that. Because as I always say, this whole idea of asking for money, it's not about the dollars. It's not about the dollars at all. It's about what the dollars do for the people that you serve. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time.